You ready? Very important. Oi, so like pillars. Danny, you good? 1 minute early. Nishkefrelach. Let's see who gets angry. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Vav. Today we will learn the Shita of Ben Azai that Mahalech Ka'oimei Dami, as we'll explain. We're going to learn on Daf Vav the Braisa that goes through the 4 domains for Shabbos. The Rishus HaYachid, the Rishus HaRabim, the Carmelis, the Makom P'tur. Will be explaining the definitions. We'll be defining each one of these 4 domains. We're going to be learning some of the laws of Eruvin. These are mamish fundamental laws. We're going to be learning about the interesting scenario of Pasei Birois, a well, as we'll define it, a Rishus HaYachid. Even if the well is in a public domain, the well itself is a Rishus HaYachid because it's 4 by 4 tefachim or wider. It goes down 10 tefachim or deeper, and therefore people that used to go to Aliyah's Haregel, they made mamish roads, highways from Bavel to Yerushalayim. And on the sides of these roads, or in these roads, they dug wells, facilitating people going Aliyah's L'regel. It was also very common that people, when Shabbos would come, there weren't inns. They would pull over to the side of the road and spend Shabbos there. But what they needed is water. So these wells were built to facilitate people who need to spend Shabbos on the road to have water for them and for the animals. The challenge of that is that, let's say you're standing either in a Carmelis or even worse, in a Rishus HaRabim. How can you take water out of the well for you or for your animals? You're going to be doing a Hitzah with Rishus HaYachid, with Rishus HaRabim. So there's a very interesting type of Eruv that we built around these wells. So near enough, they would build what Pasei Birois means, certain type of planks that were 1 amma by 1 amma. It was like an L. What do you call an L? It's a angle. There's a name for this type of. So 1 amma, and then 90 degrees, another 1 amma, and they would put it on one of the ends. Then they would build another one on the other end. Then they would build a third one on the other end, a fourth one in the fourth corner. And the Chachamim say that as long as you don't have an opening of more than 10 ammas, as long as there isn't a 10 amma opening, then we consider that area inside as a walled-off area, and it is vaited a Rishus HaYachid, and a person or an animal inside these Pasei Birois now may take water out of the well or out of the animal. And the question will be, what will happen if the road goes through these Pasei Birois? Do you have to divert the road or not? As within that, it's all called a Rishus HaYachid. So you can take the water out of the well, and it's going from Rishus HaYachid, you're taking invited into a Rishus HaYachid. We're going to learn the sheet of Isi ben Yehuda, that from all of the 39 melachos, one of them is one for which, that if a person, God forbid, violated that, b'mezid, b'edim, b'hasra, they won't get skila. The only thing is, we don't know which one of the 39 is the one for which there is no chiyuv skila. We're going to be learning a little bit about Safek, Tuma, B'Rishus HaRabim, Istahar. We'll be defining the meaning of a Rishus HaRabim for Hilchas Tuma. Doesn't go together with the dinim of Rishus HaRabim for Hilchas Shabbos. And finally, hopefully, if there'll be time, we'll be introducing the concept of a karpaf. A karpaf is a very large outdoor area that used to be open, that was fenced in. Again, normally midorai, so once you fence in an area, we'll see, it becomes a Rishus HaYachid. But because of its huge size, if it was not fenced in for residential purposes, midrabanan, one may not carry inside this area even though it's fenced in. Okay, let us start on Daf Hey Amid Beis where we left off. We left off 5 lines before the bottom of the Amid. Tanu Rabbanan, Hamoitzi Mechanus Leplatya Derech Sitov. We're going to be discussing a classical act of Hoitza'ah, Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaRabim. Now there is a Zahavamina to think that when is a person chayiv, when they transfer something from a private domain to a public domain, if they go directly from the private domain to the public domain. What's going to happen if you someone transfers something, Akira Rishus HaYachid, Hanacha was in a Reshus Harabim, but they go through a caramelist, as we'll define later exactly how you define the caramelist. A caramelist is an area from which it's only Isur D'Rabbanan to take from a Reshus HaYachid to a caramelist. It's only an Isur Midrabbanan to take from a caramelist to a Reshus Harabim. Now here the person did not stop in the caramelist, he went straight through it. Nevertheless, we have to make a point to say that even though you went through a caramelist, you're still chayiv midoy raisa, nonetheless, because you made an akira b'reshus hayachid and anocha b'reshus harabim. Now, chanus is a store. A store has a din of a reshus hayachid. Platia refers to a large public plaza, and as we will see again in Davav, in the Beraisa that we'll learn today about the four Reshuyos, a Reshus Harabim will either refer to a very large road, right, highway, or it refers through which people travel, or it refers to a large area in which people gather, a plaza. A large plaza will also have a biblical din of a Reshus Harabim. However, the person carried an object, an item, derech stav. It was the way people built cities in the times of Chazal, that in the commercial area, they would have benched areas that were built on a platform, right? Not 10 tfachim high, making it into a Reshus HaYachid, but making it hard for people who are on the public road to simply walk in there. You have to make an effort to step up onto it purposefully, and these benched in areas were also roofed, so people can stop and they can sit and they can rest. Or sometimes they used to build these benched areas near stores, wanting for people while they're resting to see merchandise, to see schoira, to think about what they might or might not buy. And as we'll learn again on Davav, that this type of stuff, this benched area, has a din of a karmelis. So a person walked from the chanus, from the store, he walked through the benched area, he walked into the large open plaza, the Reshus Harabim, he did not stop anywhere, so says the Beraisa, he's chayiv. No, it's even though he went through a exempt domain, who cares? Akira in Reshus HaYachid, Hanocha b'Reshus Harabim, chayiv chatos b'shoik. Ben Azai, however, says, no, you're potter. So now analyzes the Gemara. Bishleme Ben Azai, we understand why he says potter, because he holds Mahalech ka'oimed dami. Right, we were speaking this out of yesterday, hoping to get here, that when you do walking according to Ben Azai, every time you put your foot down, you are making a hanacha. Means if you're holding an object, the object was put down. And when you pick up your foot to take the next step, you're making a new akira. And therefore, it makes sense. Since you're constantly making hanachas and akiras, you went through a karmelis, so it really went from Reshus HaYachid to a karmelis. It's like pater avalasar. It's asan midrabbanan, but you're not chayiv chatas. Then you went from a karmelis to Reshus Harabim, again, asan midrabbanan, but you're not chayiv chatas. That's why he says you're pater. Before we go on to the Rabbanan, just read one liner in Tosfos. Tosfos, the last Tosfos in the Amid, 4 lines under the Gemara, brings from the Yerushalmi a big question, amongst many other big questions, on this Shita. If Mahalech Ka'im Dami, then how can we say, and we say, that not only may you not transfer Mirishus L'Rishus, but a person also may not carry something Dalad Amas B'Reshus Harabim, and we know that that means that if you carry something within less than 4 amas in the Reshus Harabim, you didn't violate anything. It means if you make an akira and 3 amas later, anything under 4 amas, a drop less than 4 amas, you put it down, you didn't violate carrying. If Mahalech Ka'omed Dami, how is it shaykh to violate carrying Dalad amas but Reshus Harabim? Because you're constantly putting it down. Inside Tosfos, Ubri Yishalmi Parich, Al Date de Ben Azai, that ein Adam is chayv al dalad amas b'Reshus Harabim la'olam. Diyase kimishu hunchal kol am v'amavi poter. Umishane brings Tosfos from the Yerushalmi that according to Ben Azai, mishkachas la only bekoipetz. Only when you jump. And that's a good jumper. That's jumping for 6 feet. And tak, if you jump, then you didn't make a hanach. Okay, back inside the Gemara. Ella, 3 lines before the bottom of the Amid. Ella l'Rabbanan. And the Rabbanim disagree with this. We don't hold of this sheet. Nevertheless, every single malacha is learned from how we did that in the building of the Mishkan. That's the rules. That's why there are so many exceptions, because if that happened b'malachas HaMishkan, you're going to be chayiv for Shabbos. In L'cha'ira, the carrying that happened then was from a Reshus HaYachid. People were bringing donations from their tents, and they were bringing it straight to where Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting in this large area, having it in over Reshus HaRabim. So l'chayr, it went from Reshus HaYachid to Reshus HaRabim. We don't find l'cha'ura people carrying through a place that's called a exempt area. I'm sorry, not where do we find Kahai Gavna in the Mishkan, in the Midbar, it's called Diglei Midbar, the Chayev. So Amar Rab Safra, Amar Rav Ami, Amar Rab Yechanan, Davav, Mida Dahave. I'll give you a simple classical example. Amavir Chayfetz B'Reshus HaRabim. As we just mentioned, we know that carrying something for Amos and Reshus HaRabim, you're Chayev. So, see, he says, Hasam Lav, is it not true? Afagav de Kama de Nokit Leva Azal Pater. As long as the person keeps on walking, right? You keep on proceeding. You're not chayev yet, midorais. You're only chayev if you make a hanacha. If you just made an akira in the Reshus HaRabim, not for amas, 10 amas, 20 amas, 50 amas, if I didn't do an hanacha, I'm not chayev yet. Nevertheless, kimanachle, whenever he puts it down, he's chayev. And as Rashi writes here, the second line from the top of the Amid, va'afal gav the ifsik hilucha beini ubeini. Even though that you went through a large area, walking without being chayev. So hachinami, even though you went through an area that's not an area of chiyuv, doesn't matter. Says the Gemara, no, me dummy. Over there, you were not chayev because you didn't put it down. But any place in which you would have put it down would have been mechayev you achatas. Right? Hasam kolecha demanach leimakim chiyufu. Over here, when you walk through this stav, the place would never obligate you. So again, don't bring me from Daladamas. Fight the Gemara tries to answer. No. I'm only chayv when I carry 4 amas or more. Now, if I were to get to 4 amas, I got to walk through 1 amma and 2 amma and 3 amas. When I walked through the 1 or 2 of the 3 amas, had I put it down over there, I would have been pater, because it's not 4 amas for me. Nevertheless, if I didn't put it down before 4 amas, I did put it down at the end of 4 amas or more, I'm chayiv. Very good. Hasam lav afal gav the imanach lebetech daladamas pater. Nevertheless, kimanach lebesave daladamas chayiv. So hachinami mamish. You walk through the stuff. Had you put it down on the stuff, you would have been pater, but you didn't put it down there. You walked through it. Bottom line is, akira in one domain, hanach in another domain, you're chayiv. Says the Gemara again, it's not a good comparison. Me dami, hasam over there, legabe high gavra makam p'turu. Even though that for me, since I lifted the object at this point, until I walked 4 amas, until I transferred the daladamas, I am for me in a makam p'tur. But that's only relative to me. Had another person lifted up something 20 amas behind, or 4 amas behind from any place within these daladamas, then for that other person, I walked through an area that could have been mechayev him. It means I'm not walking through a objective makom p'tur. I'm only walking through an area that for me I would be exempt, because for me it's not yet 4 amas. L'kula alma makom chiyufu. For everyone else, you understand what's going on over here? For everyone else, if someone would have started out 10 amas behind, then in every inch through which I'm walking through, if they would have put it down there, they would have been chayiv. So it's not a objective makom p'tur. I'm walking through only a makom p'tur for me, but not for others. Hacha by the stav l'kula alma makom p'tur. So again, where do we?
Because for you, you've only walked less than daladamas.
Correct. So the Gemara answers, Ella midadahava moitzim reshus yachal reshus harabim derech tzidei reshus harabim. Tzidei reshus harabim means not exactly a sidewalk. The sides of the Reshus HaRabim means an area that people normally would not walk on. One example will be, it's my property. People normally don't build their homes flush on the Reshus HaRabim, even for practical reasons. They don't want for wagons to knock into their homes. So there's a certain area that belongs to a front yard, a setback. As we'll see, sometimes people actually fence off their setback. Sometimes people only put pegs in the ground to mark it's my property. Sometimes they don't even have those pegs. These will be negea later, we'll learn about that. But being that sometimes people walk into my setback because the street is packed with people. So therefore, as we'll learn soon in the definition of a carmelis, it's not the Reshus HaRabim, because it's not made for the Rabbim. People are not supposed to walk in there. It's not a Reshus HaYachid, because there are times that people do walk through there. So it has a din of a carmelis. And the Gemara is going on the premise that even in the Midbar, when people pitched tents in the desert, they didn't pitch it all the way under the Reshus HaRabim. Everyone had a front yard, so to say. And therefore, that's mamash the greatest example, that people carrying from their tent, bringing stuff to Moshe Rabbeinu, they would walk from a Reshus HaYachid through what we call Tzidei Reshus HaRabim. They would make a hanacha by Moshe Rabbeinu, and that is the bona fide act of Hoitzah. Hasam lav afal gav de'i manach liat Tzidei Reshus HaRabim, which is classified as a carmelis, is pater. Nevertheless, v'chi manach le b'Reshus HaRabim, walking through the Tzidei Reshus HaRabim, they're chayiv. So hachinami, that's the source, that taka, it's the best source that we find in the Midbar, Sidei, Diglei Midbar, that you're chayiv even though you went through a exempt domain. Says the Gemara, Maskav, lot of Papa, hold on, this is indeed a machlokes between Tanoim. Panicha l'Rabbanon, the Amri, Tzidei Reshus HaRabim, Rav Reshus HaRabim, Dami, then you taka have a proof. But according to the Tana Rabbi Eliezer, according to some versions, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and just to give everyone a heads up, that the Tana Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is strongly taken into account. Actually, we have a rule, we call Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Kav V'Naki. That means it's small, it's a small amount of flour, but it's the best flour in the world. And according to some opinions, that means that everywhere where he says a shita, we paskin like him. According to most others, only when a shita is quoted in a Mishnah. And actually, Kav, Kuvav, there are Kuvav Pa'amim, that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is quoted in a Mishnah. That's a backup that it only refers to Mishnayos. But anyways, it's good to know Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's opinion in many cases becomes halacha. Here there's a machlokes in Girsa'os. So let's go with what's printed here. That Ela Rabbi Eliezer, right, let's follow the Maseres Hashas. The Amar, Tzidei Reshus HaRabim is Reshus HaRabim. Because since de facto when the Reshus HaRabim itself is crowded, people walk on that Tzidei Reshus HaRabim, so it has a din of a Reshus HaRabim. So back in the Midbar, people went directly from a Reshus HaYachid to a Reshus HaRabim. Where do you find a precedent that even though you walk through a exempt domain, you'll be chayiv nonetheless? Ma'ikal Meimer. So Amalei Ravacha B'rei Ravika, Ema Deshamat L'Rabbi Eliezer, the Amad Tzidei Reshus HaRabim Reshus HaRabim Dami. That's only heicha. That is his shita when the lekachipufe, when you don't have obstructions, when you don't have pegs, when people with great facility can walk into that Tzidei Reshus HaRabim. However, aval heicha the ikichipufe, but wherever people put any type of obstruction, and this is based on the premise that in the desert people would put pegs. Because people don't want, you build a house, look at today the way people build homes. If you live in a city where there are homes, there's an area around the home, or there's an area around an apartment building. And that's not for the public to go on. Whether it is to add more light, or like we mentioned, even then when people live very crowdedly, you don't want wagons banging into your building. And if they would build chipufe, then mi shamadle, would Rabbi Eliezer still hold that it has a din of a Reshus HaRabim? Certainly not. If it's demarked, it makes it harder for people to drive in there with wagons. Even if a person wants to walk in there, he realizes, oops, I'm walking into a property that's not the Reshus HaRabim. It l'kula alma renders it no longer Reshus HaRabim. And yes, a karmelis, and that is how it was in the Midbar. Hilkach lahadamya mamish in the Midbar. If that's the way it was in the Midbar, carrying was Reshus HaYachid. Derech karmelis, putting it down on the Reshus HaRabim. So then we see that it doesn't matter if I carried it through an exempt domain. All I look at as the moment of the Akira, the locale of the Akira, the location of the Hanacha. If they were two different biblical domains, then you're going to be chayev achatas. All right. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Umoide ben Azai bezoirek, that if a person is throwing an item from a store and it's landing in the plaza and it flew through the stuff, even ben Azai is moida that you're going to be chayiv. When did he say that you're pater? When you were walking, based on his shita that mahalach koimedami. So it makes sense because you made an akira b'reshus hayachid, you made a hanach in a karmelis. But if it flew through that domain, Unlike, we have to say this because before we had the concept from Rabbi Akiva, Kluta Kemishahun Chadami, that would be different. We're not going with that. Oh, Tanya Namihachi, Rabbi Yechanan is taka substantiated by a brayso, by Tanoim. And obviously, if Rabbi Yechanan would have known, then he wouldn't have needed to say it. He probably didn't know this brayso. Hamoitze mechanois, mechanus, leplatio, Rishus HaYachid, store to plaza, to Rishus HaRabim. And you walk through derech stuff, you're chayiv. And the Tanakama holds, echad hamoitzi, whether you're going in the direction from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, you're transferring it out, or whether you're being machnes, meaning you're bringing it in from the Rishus HaRabim into the Rishus HaYachid, all through the stuff. The echad hazoyrek, whether you threw it, whether you throw it. The echad hamoishit, whether you hand it over. The Tanakama, if we do not subscribe to Mahalach Ko'emed, you will always be chayiv. Ben Nazai, who argues, only argues by moitzi machnes, because you're walking. That is where he says you're pater. And here Befedish, Ben Azai says, if you're moishet or zoyrek, since no one is putting their feet down, hamoishet would mean that I'm passing it from me to you, from you to you. It's being passed over to people. It's going through it. But there is no putting down. You only have putting down if it's on me, and I'm walking, so I put my foot down, that's called the hanacha. If no one is walking, if it's being passed over, then even according to Ben Azai, there was one akira and one hanacha in two different domains, Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, and you will be chayiv. And now, on Davav, at least it's on Davav and not on Daf 100, we're going to learn the Dalad Rishoyas. Just to know that many times, for some reason, certain fundamental concepts are discussed both in Mishnayos and the Gemara way into the Masechta. At least here in Shabbos, when it comes to Hoitzah, we're having very early on a lot of fundamental concepts that define better the malacha of Hoitzah. Tana Rabbanan Daled Rishuyos l'Shabbos. There are four domains regarding carrying on Shabbos, regarding transferring on Shabbos. One domain is called Rishus HaYachid. Again, not defined by private ownership at all, as we'll learn. It's not if it belongs to a Yachid, not if it belongs to a Rabbim. We'll see how you define it. The other one is called Rishus HaRabim. The third domain is called a Karmelis. So we already learned from Daf Gimel Amud Beis. Rashi quoted the pasuk from Yeshaya, Ya'aroi v'karmiloi. Ya'aroi v'karmiloi means, again, either a forest or a fertile field, or it means a forest and a great forest. A forest, let's go with the forest, is a mashal of a domain that most people don't go through forests, but people are allowed to do it. It's open for the public. It's called, in Yiddish, nishtaher and nishtahen. It's not you can't call it a private domain, but it's not like a public domain. And the more we'll define the public domain, the more you'll see that a forest is not a public domain.
A beach is a Carmelis?
Could be. Not could be. A beach is for sure a Carmelis. For sure a beach is a Carmelis.
Unless you have 600,000 people.
Yeah, we'll get to the 600,000 people in a moment. We'll speak it out in a moment. We don't even have it here in the Sugya, but 1 second. The Tosfos over here, I think we quoted the Tosfos on Daf Gimel, brings from the Yerushalmi, and he says Karmelis is a composite of the words Kar and Mol, or Rach and Mol. This is about a kernel, not overly moist, nor dry, soft. Again, nishtaher and nishtahen. And the Rambam writes that Karmelis is from Lashon Almana. Not she's a psula, but nor is she married. You know, it's like some in-between area. And the fourth domain is called a Makom Ptur, just to say that biblically you have a concept of Makom Ptur. What you do not have biblically is a concept of a Karmelis. We'll speak it out in a moment. But bottom line is now, we have these four Rishuyos.
You said that in the desert they had pegs by their home.
So what?
That wasn't considered a Carmelis.
No, I didn't say that. I says that before the Chachamim enacted a Rishus of a Karmelis, then it was not called a Karmelis, but it's the concept of a Karmelis. It was any setting, anything that I am doing, that this was done in the Malachas HaMishkan is called a Malacha Midoraisa. Okay. Makom Ptur is a place in which you're not only not chayiv biblically, you are lechatchila can carry from this location. I can go from a Rishus HaYachid to a place that's called a place of exemption, mamish. Or I can go from a Makom Ptur lechatchila to a Rishus HaYachid, because let's learn that it's considered an auxiliary to that domain. So it's like an extension of that domain. I can go lechatchila from a Makom Ptur to a Rishus HaRabim, or from a Rishus HaRabim to a Makom Ptur. What I may not do rabbinically is go from a Rishus HaYachid to a Makom Ptur to a Rishus HaRabim, rabbinically. But let's go right. Now, v'ezi Rishus HaYachid. Let's go. What's gavaldik? This is Torah Shabbal Peh. what the Braisa will not do is give you the normal case of a Reshus HaYachid. He'll give you unusual cases of a Reshus HaYachid from which he expects us to extrapolate the obvious. The obvious normally is never said. What it says is a chiddush. So charetz, a ditch in the ground that is deep 10 tefachim, and it's wide, and wide meaning on both the width and the length, has 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim or more, but not more than 4 tefachim. Daled by daled or more. V'rachiv daled. Notice, instead of just saying you have an area, like this room, that the floor is 4 by 4 more, and there are 4 walls. That is a Reshus HaYachid, but that's a given. Even if it's not a room, it's a ditch in the ground. But like we mentioned in the intro, like we'll learn today about the Pasi Birois, a well. If the well is 4 by 4, and it's deep in the ground 10 tefachim, in there it has a din of a Reshus HaYachid. Likewise, Gader, if you have a wall. Gader means a fence, but it means a wall because a fence, you think about something very skinny. What happens in walls now, because of new materials, we can build very tall using relatively narrow walls. But imagine then, the taller you build, the wider the wall needed to be for it not to collapse. So it was common that the wall itself, we learned this by the Beis HaMikdash and Midrash, the walls were thick, moiridik. So at the top of a wall, if the wall is 10 tefachim off the ground or more, could be that the top, the thickness of the wall is daled by daled or more. So the top of the wall has a din of a Reshus HaYachid. V'chein Gader, Shehu Gavaya Yud, V'rachav daled zu hi Reshus HaYachid. And here the Braisa adds a word to teach us something, as we'll see soon. Gemura, this is a complete Reshus HaYachid. Now, V'ezi Reshus HaRabim. So these are the words. Right? Remember when everyone was tummeling with this Eruvin. This is the quote. Saratya means a highway. It's very important to know that a highway, I know I'm jumping straight to halacha l'maisa. According to many halachic poskim, today is not a Reshus HaRabim because the highway, the Saratya highway, means a highway on which people traverse walking. And if you have, the big roads, 5th Avenue, maybe La Cienega, not only do people go through it with cars, you have sidewalks. That makes it more into a Reshus HaRabim. I'm speaking what we call a highway, even though the word Saratya means a highway. What we call a highway, no one walks on a highway. And just to know, according to many halachic poskim, a highway is not called a Reshus HaRabim. So we're speaking about how people walked in the desert. People walked. Some people, we put our stuff on the donkeys. We walked, or according to the Midrash, we didn't even need to walk because the Adnan Yaakov took us, but we didn't go into a vehicle. Palatya, so the concept of a highway is an area that people use to go from one place to another place. People travel through. Palatya, Gedoyla, has to be big. A big plaza, people gather there. But many people gather there. But that's why it's 2 different categories. One to travel through, one to gather. And umuva'is hamifulashim, streets that are open on both ends. Streets, roads. Not a highway, but open on both ends. Not the alleys that we'll be learning a lot on Eruvin and a little bit today, where it was what we would call a cul-de-sac. That means that it's closed off from 3 sides. And understand that in the times of Chazal, closed off, mamish can mean with walls, because the houses were built like on Union Street, or I already saw a couple of streets here, where houses are touching each other. So if you have a street and they have houses, the walls, the outer walls of the houses themselves form a wall. Muvois hamifulashim means it's open on both ends. So here, and people are going through Zuhi Reshus HaRabim Gemura. Now, there are many opinions in the Rishonim. I'm just quoting Rashi, especially in Eruvin, when Rashi speaks about the concept of Diglei Midbar, of it having servicing. Here Rashi writes they have to have 16 amas width, because we know that from the Midbar, that the streets have to have at least the width of 16 amas. It's very important. Everyone agrees to that criterion. If the street does not have 16 amas, it's not going to be called a Reshus HaRabim. Some of the Rishonim add, and this goes all the way into Shulchan Aruch, 16 amas wide. Yeah. Huh? 24 feet. We go amas a foot and a half. Now there's another criterion, and that is that some Rishonim mention, some place can bring down, that it has to be servicing 600,000 people. Ki yoytze Mitzrayim. Really, in Mitzrayim there were many more than 600,000 people, but since that is the number that the Torah writes, now even when it comes to it servicing 600,000 people, what does that mean? It's also a big machlekes. Does it mean 600,000 people every day? Or not? Maybe if it's a city in which 600,000 people live and they all use that street, so it's servicing 600,000 people. Another detail when it comes to the Reshus HaRabim. Many poskim write that a Reshus HaRabim midoraisa only refers to a street that the same street connects one edge of the city to the other edge of the city. It runs through the entire city. And they write that every city were to have, even if the city has 600,000 people or more, it can only have two such streets. One that is going Mizrach Ma'ariv, one that's going Tzafon Darim. Not everyone subscribes to that. But these are all shittas that are brought down on Shulchan Aruch, which is very negei halacha l'maisa, because we try never to make an eruv to a biblical Reshus HaRabim. And therefore, we always try to figure out how halachically our cities and the streets thereof don't have a biblical Reshus HaRabim category. And one
small towns, shtetls,
that depends. That's a machlekes all the way up to Periscope. No, it's not everyone subscribes to the need of it servicing 600,000 people. One more detail, that if these streets, even if it's a thorough, like here La Cienega, you can say goes through the whole city. Mamash, right? It's like, you can argue that it goes through the whole city, but if there's a street that has doors that are closed off at night, not here, that's how it used to be, then even if it's Kiyotze Mitzrayim and it's Tezayin Amma and it goes from one end to the other, it also will not have a din over Reshus HaRabim. Okay, let's go back over here. Now, says the Braisa, now that we defined Reshus HaYachid and Reshus HaRabim, Ein Mitziyim Reshus HaYachid Zul Reshus HaRabim Zul. That's going out. The in is private to the public, or the opposite direction. And that's the case where you chayv chatos. If you knew you're not allowed to do it, and you knew today is Shabbos, God forbid the person will be punished with kares before they do tshuva. And if the person was forewarned, we're going to learn later dinim of hasra'ah, and there were witnesses, then there theoretically a person, you can come to the point where the person will be stoned to death. Right, it's a capital sin. Chilul Shabbos v'niskal. Avol continues the Braisa. If you have the if you have a sea, or you have a bika, which is a opened area of fields, the istavanis is another name of stav that we learned about today. They were out there in the sides of the large open plazas, but again, there were areas closed bench. There were benches there, and there were coverings there, and people would sit there. So, and they were on all of the edges of the large plaza. Being that it's up the ground, that's very important. It will off the ground. It has 4x4 tfachim and more, a lot more. But it's not 10 tfachim off the ground. If the benched off area would have been 10 tfachim off the ground, we just learned, any area that's dalad by dalad, 10 up, 10 down, or walled with 10, is it a Reshus HaYachid? Even though it belongs to the public and it's made for the public and used by the public, it's a Reshus HaYachid. But since it's not 10 tfachim off the ground,
on the bench,
the whole bench area, not the bench area. In other words, there was like a platform. They didn't want for people just to intrude in the bench off area, so they made a platform. And the hakarmelis, which is so ironic because the yam and the bika and the istavanis are certain karmelis areas. But the Braisa adds, and the karmelis, the Gemara is going to clarify, what is that? Until now, everything is karmelis. So the din is, no matter where it is, it won't have the din of that domain. It's not like a makom patur that becomes a extension of that domain. It's not. And ve'ein noisin ve'noisnen betoicha, you may not carry in it midrabanan as if it is a Reshus HaRabim. Where can one not carry in a domain? In a Reshus HaYachid, I can carry as much as I want. In a Reshus HaRabim, halacha l'meishu mesinai, for sure, biblically, we may not carry daladamas. The Chazal said that even though the karmelis is not like a Reshus HaRabim, midrabanan, it ascribes to some dinim of Reshus HaRabim you may not carry within it. However, ve'im nasa v'nasan b'teicha, you didn't violate a biblical law, and therefore you're pater. Pater means pater avol asur midrabanan. And furthermore, ve'ein moitziin miteicha l'reshus harabim v'leim reshus harabim l'teicha. Ve'ein machnisim reshus hayachid l'teicha v'leim miteicha l'reshus hayachid. And again, all this is midrabanan, and therefore ve'im hoitzi ve'hichnis. In a carmelist, to and from, again, you are parted from biblical and you are chayi and you are asur midrabanan. Says the Braisa weiter, Chatzeiroi shel Rabim, communal courtyards, Umuva'os she'einon mifoloshim, and alleyways or streets that are not open from both sides. And here we're moving me'inyin le'inyin. But we're not speaking about the four reshuyos. We're speaking about a reshus that is a reshus hayachid, according to Rashi. According to Rashi, any area that's walled off from three sides is a biblical reshus hayachid. Rambam disagrees. We learn Rambam. Rashi holds that it doesn't have to be four here. Davav. 3 is good enough. So even though it's a reshus hayachid, nevertheless, let's bekitzer say the following: that the Chazal did not want for us to carry from a reshus hayachid to another reshus hayachid if they don't share the same ownership. So if they are owned by the same person or by the same people, you're good. But if they are owned differently, even if one person who owns the house is a partner in the yard in front, but the house only he owns, the yard belongs to him and to the other homes that use it. So that's already called not the same ownership. This is solely mine, this is shared mine. So the Chazal made a takana that in order for people to carry from a house to a chatzar, from a chatzar to a house, again, l'Rashi, even if it's closed off by 3 sides, or the mavoi she'ena mafulish is closed off by 3 sides, again, midoiraisa, as a din of a reshus hayachid l'Rashi. But since, again, the chatzar belongs only to the people that have these homes. It's the houses opening up to yards. The yards open up into the cul-de-sac, the closed off street. Gated communities. So hold on. Gated community, even if it's gated by 4 walls. In a city where there's no Eruv, then you have, that's the whole takana midrabanan to make an Eruv chatzeres that's used when everyone is chipping in and buying food and it's being left in one of the properties, and that will, Pashat Chaval Azman, we'll learn this more, but that will allow people to carry from their home to the yard. Everyone from the Mavoi, all of the people that have access to the Mavoi, whose chatzeros open up into the Mavoi, they do a shituf mavais, the same concept, they all pitch into food. And being that they are all partners in food that is in one locale, everyone Shabbos is considered to own everything. The only thing is, in a city where there is an Eruv, like in Los Angeles, there's a machlekes all the way in halacha, whether the communal Eruv also covers Eruv chatzeros and shituf mavais. And bekitzer, the Litvische crowd holds yes, the Hasidische crowd holds no, but they hold that when you make your own, if you live in an apartment building is a good place. I own my apartment. Common era belongs to everyone. So you make an Eruv Chatzeros, you have to make an Eruv Chatzeros without a bracha, and according to us, according to Alter Rebbe and many others, here not only are you mechuyev to make an Eruv Chatzeros, you make it with a bracha. The Eruv that the city makes does not affect this at all, and that's very important to know. Coming back over here. So then we're going me'inyin le'inyin. So we're speaking about the reshuyas, that when you have one reshus hayachid to another ownership reshus hayachid, only ervu mutarim, loy ervu, then it is asur midirabanan, like Rashi writes, beferish, v'hach milsa lav michiluk dalid reshuyasi. The bein ervu, bein loy ervu, I'm reading inside Rashi, reshus hayachid, because it's a mavui, she'ena mefulash, is walled off from 3 sides. You're chayiv. Good. And again, the Rambam disagrees with this, but let's go right. Now back in the Braisa, what's the Makam P'tur? Adam oimed al iskufa. So yesterday, right, we had on Daf Hamad Beis on the top line this threshold, which was very common. People had a home, and they had the area, the stone or the wood that they built under the door protruded outwards. The landing or a door sill or a skufa. Now, when we learned the skufa yesterday, it was dafka a karmelis because the skufa that we learned yesterday had 4x4 tvachim. So that's 4x4, and it's removed off the ground, but it's not 10 tvachim high. That's a karmelis. This skufa doesn't even have 4x4. Many landings, many yeskufas don't have 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. It's very little. And any locale that is less than 4x4, but it's removed off the ground 3 tvachim or more, I don't care if it's 3 tefachim to Tanu, even higher than 10 tefachim, because it's not 4 by 4, is classified as a makim p'tur. So I'm in Ali Skufa. So then lechatchila noitilni balabais, guys. The balabais, that was the first Mishnah, is reshus hayachid. That's just a way of saying someone who's in a home. If a ani is on the iskufa, the balabais can hand something to him. V'noisen loy, or the opposite, noitilni ani v'noisen loy. Ubilvad. What do we not allow? Shulayitilni balabais v'noisen lo ani. But we don't allow someone midrabanan to stand on the iskufa and to take something from the house. It means mirashus hayachid to makim p'tur, and then to go from the makim p'tur to the reshus harabim, because Chazal were afraid you're going to circumvent that step and you're going to go straight from the reshus hayachid to the reshus hagzeder. Or ma'ani v'noisen labalabais. But if someone violated this rabbinic and something actually went from reshus hayachid to reshus harabim, so you violated the Rabbanan, you're not chayiv chatos. Im notal v'nasan shloshtem petur. Chedim oimer machedim saying that the iskufa is not considered a domain for itself. We're speaking dafka now about this iskufa, this door sill, because since it's coming out of the house, or it's adjacent to the reshus harabim, and iskufa is either reshus hayachid or reshus harabim. It's completely batel to its neighboring domain, but to which one? So Achedim say it depends. Mishameshes as one of the following two Rishoyas. Bisman Shah Pesach Pasuach, if the door is open, then the area of the Yiskufa has a biblical category of Ereshus HaYachid Kilifnim. If the Pesach of the house is closed during that time, then the Yiskufa is completely then bottled to the Ereshus HaRabim, Kilochutz. Another din, V'im Hoyse Yiskufa Gavaya Yud, what happens if you have, not only is it large by it being 4 by 4, it's also high. How high? 10 tefachim. What will we call this normally? Arashus hayachid. 4 by 4, 10 tefachim high. Still, harei zereshus la'atzma. It is ereshus for itself. Meaning, what does the Baraisa mean with these words? Look inside Rashi at the end of the Amid. Harei zereshus la'atzma. Afal pi shehim ereshus hayachid. Kidam rin Elyahu begeder. When it comes to a wall, we said that if the wall is high 10 tefachim and it's 4, so it's a reshus hayachid. Nevertheless, says the Baraisa, Havya reshus b'fnei atzma, the iskufa is not looked like a reshus hayachid. It is a domain for itself, and therefore ve'ein moitziim en abayis l'toichem. In other words, you may not a reshus hayachid to another reshus hayachid that is owned by the same person. You can carry. No, you don't need an eruv. Not to this one, and the Gemara is going to explain why. Something, even though it's even if it's high 10 tefachim, we'll see some unique din about this iskufa in the Gemara. Okay, now the Gemara, as it always does, it's going to now take apart, unpackage this Braisa. Amar Mar. The Braisa began by saying ve'ezu hi reshus hayachid. So it prefaced the reshus hayachid. Then it gave a couple of examples. So it already prefaced ve'ezu hi reshus hayachid. Why did the Braisa again have to close it, right, by saying at the end, zu hi reshus hayachid? Really it said, zu hi reshus hayachid gemura. We'll get to the gemura in a moment. Why did the Braisa need to say these words? If you open up, if you preface, what is it reshus hayachid? This, that, and finish. Gandikt. You don't have to close it by saying, this is a reshus hayachid. The Tana adds these words to emphasize only this is a reshus hayachid and not something else. So what are we excluding? Lemutamayim, lema'utei hod Rabbi Yehuda, the shita of the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, the Tani, yeser al kain Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Pashut, it's time. So there's some din that the Gemara doesn't mention. We're not going to mention now, but another din adds on that says Rabbi Yehuda, mishi yesh lebeis batim bishnei tzidei reshus harabim. If you have a proper biblical reshus harabim. Let's speak about now a thoroughfare, a road, right? And there are homes on both sides. Rabbi Yehuda, we don't pass him like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if an area is walled only by two sides, but one opposite the other, the area in between these two walls is a reshus hayachid. So now, if you have two homes on two sides of the street, oisa taf vava mid beis, lechi mikan v'lechi mikan, loy koyde mikan v'koyde mikan. Gewaldig. So another din in Hilchos Eruvin. When we spoke about a closed off alleyway. So we mentioned on Amud Aleph the need midrabanan for people to be allowed to carry from the mavoi into the chutzner, or from the chutzner into the mavoi. The challenge is, even though they both have biblical dinim of Reshus HaYachid, but since the mavoi belongs to everyone that has chatzerim here, this chutzner only belongs to the houses that have a house in this chutzner, so you have to make a partnership. Okay, now that you made this partnership, now what? Now, biblically, you can carry from the house to the chutzner to the mavoi, until where? Until the Reshus HaRabim. And then you may not carry anymore. Came along Chazal and they said that since the mavui is open to the Reshus HaRabim, if a person is not going to make a siman to show everyone that here is where the Reshus HaRabim ends, here is where the Reshus HaYachid begins, people inadvertently carrying in this mavui might go out. It wasn't gated off, it was open on one side. So in order to prevent that from happening, they said that we have to physically put a lechi, which is a vertical beam. We'll learn more dinim about this in Eruvin. Or to put a koida, a cross beam on top. And that's lehekeda, to remind people, this is where one domain ends and the other domain begins. Now, as we mentioned on Amud Aleph, we don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, which means that this whole din of a shituv and a mavoi is only to cover the rabbinic worry of not being allowed to carry from one Reshus HaYachid to another type of Reshus HaYachid. But it has to be a Reshus HaYachid. For it to be a Reshus HaYachid, it has to be a closed street. At least it's closed from three sides. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if it's open, then both sides. If there are two walls, that alone makes it into a Reshus HaYachid. So Rabbi Yehuda, now, so it's a Reshus HaYachid. But still, there is this rabbinic rule, maybe a person will accidentally, who's carrying within these two walls, so he's going to take another step into the Reshus HaRabim, so you have to make a lechi or a koida, but from both sides. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that you have to make a lechi mikan and a lechi mikan, a side post on this end, a side post on that end, or a koida mikan or a koida mikan. And once you do that, says Rabbi Yehuda, v'noisen be'emsa. Obviously, you can't carry from the Reshus HaRabim into Reshus HaYachid. But if Shabbos began and there's an item in that area, you can pick it up and carry it for Amos in that walled off area. However, the Chachamim tell him, the Chachamim hold that even though there are two walls, it's biblically Reshus HaRabim. It's open, people go straight through it. And the whole advantage of a lechi and a koira is only if biblically it's Reshus HaYachid. Elama, you might not remember where the location ends. You might forget that you're walking into Reshus HaRabim. So make up sasim in lehekeda. But since this is a Reshus HaRabim, a koida and a lechi is irrelevant here. Gavaldik. Now, what are we getting to? When the Braisa says, this is a Reshus HaYachid. This is a Reshus HaYachid, and not an area that only has two walls opposite each other, is not a Reshus HaYachid. We don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Then the Braisa doesn't only say Zuhi Reshus HaYachid, it says Zuhi Reshus HaYachid Gemura. What's the Gemura? Amaikar, the Gemara is asking, why does the Braisa call it a complete Reshus HaYachid? Mao the Taima, you might think, keep ligid Rabban Rabbi Yehuda. Only Ki'ilu L'chumra, only the loy have a Reshus HaYachid. In other words, they're saying you can't carry within it. Will be machna. But what were to happen if someone took something from the Reshus HaRabim and they put it down in that area, and it did not go 4 amas? Maybe the Rabbanan will be machmed like Rabbi Yehuda to say after this it's a Reshus HaYachid, because you made an akida b'Reshus HaRabim and anocha b'Reshus HaYachid. No, Aval Lizroik, you would think that they're moeded to Rabbi Yehuda Komash Milan. This is b'chlal not a Reshus HaYachid. This is Reshus HaRabim. Even Lakula. So if a person carried from an inch beyond the opposite walls into the opposite walls, then they carried within Dalad Amas b'Reshus HaRabim and they violated nothing. Okay, then weiter. Amar Mar. Then the Braisa spoke about again. It prefaced the Reshus HaRabim, and after it gave the examples, it closed Zuhi Reshus HaRabim Gemura. Before we get to the word Gemura, what's Zuhi Reshus HaRabim Lamuta Mai? Lamuta Idach Rabbi Yehuda. And how ironic that it's going to appear that this next machlekes, it seems like Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan, they switched positions. But what's the next case? So we spoke out in the intro. People build wells on the roads. Inside of a well, in the water in the well, if the well is 4 by 4 tefachim, and most wells were 4 by 4 tefachim, it's deep, 10 tefachim or more. The well is a Reshus HaYachid, the water in the well is also a Reshus HaYachid. So the question is, on Shabbos, am I or my animals, are we able to take water out of the well if the well is either in a Reshus HaRabim? Then the answer is biblically no. And even if that street is only a Carmelis, then rabbinically no. But we need to offer that option, especially in order to help Yidden do Aliyah L'Regel. When many Yidden traveled and many of them were not stuck, that was their plan. They spent Shabbos on the side of the road. You can take food with you. It's very difficult to take water with you. So Chazal allowed for people to build this very unusual mechitza. All right, the height was 10 tefachim. You can make it taller. You don't need to make it taller. The length and the width was only 1 amma. So amma by an amma, 10 tefachim high. What do you call this again? A angle.
Right angle.
A right angle. And you make 4 right angles. So for those who are watching, if this is the well, you would make one over here. You would make one over here. You would make one over here and one over here. As long as you don't have an opening of 10 amas or more, we view it halachically ki'ilu, it's 4 walled off.
Not open from one corner to the next, more than 10.
As long as the opening, because I have an amma from each wall. So I can have a drop less than 12 ammas from each corner, because I have an amma here and I have an amma here. The open area cannot hit 10 ammas. And then it becomes a Reshus HaYachid. And me and my animals can stand in there on Shabbos and take water out. Now, what happens if, basically the roads of the olden days, what happens is they built this a couple of years ago, but for whatever reason, they diverted the road. The road goes through the Pasibarois. People are traveling through the openings. 10 amos is nice, 9 amos is ganz good. If the road went now in between these side posts, so the Tanan, Rabbi Yehuda says, if it cuts through it, then you have to, you have to, now for Yidden, people are walking around it, because if the road goes through it, it breaks that domain, and it becomes Nachamol, either Reshus HaRabim or a Carmelis. Interesting, Rabbi Yehuda held 2 walls are good enough. Here, he's more machmir, because here it's not a full wall, here it's only a shtickle wall. The Chachamim, who say that you have to have, according to Rashi, at least 3 walls, they'll be lenient here. You know why they're going to be lenient here? Because at the end of the day, the Chachamim will say, you can view it as if there are 4 walls. Because since each side has a little wall on one side, a little wall on the other side. So they're more lenient here. The Chachamim remain at Tzarech.
So we're talking that the road is going through this new designated area.
Yes, obviously when they built it, it was on the side of the road. But as time went on, they decided to move the road. Today there's asphalt, people don't move roads, expensive. Then it was nothing. They did, for whatever reason, the people just began to go through the Pasibarois. So the Chachamim hold that even though people go through it, it's still a Reshus HaYachid. So that's why they're saying, this is a Reshus HaRabim, and not the road that is traveling through the Pasibarois. It's not a Reshus HaRabim, not like Rabbi Yehuda. And here again, why does the Braisa use the word Gemura? Not to teach you yet another din. We don't have to say that here. Since we don't have to say it here, we don't say it here. Here there's another Tanoim, even in the Braisas, certainly in the Mishnahs, wrote things that it should be symmetric, that it should be beautiful. So it says the Gemara, I did the Tana Reisha Gemura, Tana Nami Seifa Gemura. Frek the Gemara Velechshoiv Nami Midbar. Hold on. Everything comes from the Midbar. When Yidden were in the Midbar, the location where we encamped, had a din of a Reshus HaRabim, if the area is in the middle, the plaza, where the Machna Levia was, where the Mishkan was. So why didn't the Mishnah speak about a Midbar? Why did the Braisa only speak about the highway, the plaza? And furthermore, the Hatanya, we learned that in the Braisa, that Ezer Reshus HaRabim Asaratya, a highway, Palatya Gedoyla, large plaza, Umavo'ois HaMifulashin. I just want to speak about the 600,000 people, even though we're speaking about a large plaza, right? You know how large an area has to be to gather 600,000 people? It's not mistabed that it has to service 600,000 people at one time. It's in a city where there are 600,000 people, so it's available for a large amount of people. Okay. And Vahamidbar. So why didn't our Braisa mention a desert? So Abai says, Gavaldik, Loi Kashe. The latter Braisa, the one that we just learned, is Bisman Yisrael Shroim Bamidbar. When we were there, when we were traveling through the Midbar, since these areas were servicing 600,000 people, Itaka has a din then of a Rishus Harabim. But Khan, the Brais and the Vava Medalef is Bizman Hazeh, you don't have 600,000 people. Well, it depends on which desert. So it depends on the Mitzias. We got to go weiter. Omar Marbi, the master taught us, Im Hoitzi V'Hichnas B'Shoigeg, Chayv Chatos, Shleim Echal Kopim, Memezid Oynish, Koros V'Niskal. The Gemara says, why did the Brais have to say any of this? B'Shoigeg, Chayv Chatos, Pshita. Answers the Gemara, you're right. It was to be Machadish, B'Mezid Oynish, Koros V'Niskal, Yitzracholei. So again, Hanami Pshita. And Nachlashi brings down, we know from Pasha Shlach, we see the Torah gives a story of the Makoshish Eitzim, that he was put to death. Hakamash Mulon, Kidarav. Oh. To Amarav, Matzasi Megillah Sesorim Bei Rebbe Chia. Nachamal again. Rav was Rebbe Chia's nephew. Not only was he Rebbe Chia's nephew, but the Gemara Bava Kama Tzadik Tes says Rav was Rebbe Chia's secretary. And even though Torah Shebal Peh, up until when Rebbe put it down in the Mishnah, up until then, we were not allowed to record it. It was Rebbe applying the Eis Lasis Lashem Hefedu Torah Sech, as we learned in the end of Brachos. But even before us recording Torah Shebal Peh, if a Talmud heard something that he never heard before, and he was afraid that he might forget it, he was allowed to take notes privately. And those notes were called Megillah Sesarim. So Rav says, I looked through the Megillah Sesarim of my uncle and my teacher and my boss, Rab Chia, and because of Bob, Sana Achidish, that Isi ben Yehuda Omer, listen to these words, Avis Malachais, Mem Chasar Achas, that we know. The ein chayiv ala achas. Now the havamina is, what happens if a person in a state of shoygeg violates various malachas, and then they chap oy gaval today was Shabbos? The din is that you bring one chatas for each different one of the lamates malachas. It sounded like he's writing that even if a person bishoygeg in one state of lapse of unawareness, God forbid, violated all the 39, he's only chayiv one. And when I read that, that's what Rav was saying, how can that be? Any, v'hatanan in our Mishnah, Avis Malachis, Mishnah in Ein Gimel, Klal Gadol, Mem Chasar Achas. And when we learned the Mishnah, B'Havinama, we asked, why did the Mishnah have to give a number? The Mishnah should have just written the 39, you count yourself. And on that, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, to tell you the din, She'im Asoim, Kolam Elamachas, Yerchayva Kol Achas V'Achas. And it's not mistaber, then Isi ben Yehuda argues with our Mishnah. Ella, all of this is just explaining the meaning of the Megillah Sesarim. That Ella Ema Eina Chayav Al Achas Mehen means like this: that even though if a person violated all the lamates malachas b'shoygeg, you're chayav chatas akol achas v'achas, and even though a person who violates the lamates malachas mid do oirais or the chayav kares, but this goes together because if you're not chayav kares b'mezid, you would not be chayav chatas b'shoygeg. That was the rule in Krisus. But what about skila? To be chayiv chatos, you don't have to be chayiv skila. Chatos is a shidduch, is a wife of the kodesh. Any sin for which you chayiv kodesh b'mezid, if you did it b'shoigig, you chayiv chatos. Okay. So, however, there's one of these 39 that if a person did it b'mezid with Adam, with hasra, they won't get skila. Now, Isi ben Yehuda did not write which one, so we did not know which one. So, ha-kamash malon, what this Brisa wants to let you know, we knew about that doubt. And we want you to know that ha-mahanach deloy mesapkan, that hoitzah, even though hoitzah is called a malacha gerua, as we learned in the beginning, because you're not changing the item physically, which is one of the reasons why Fakert Rabbeinu HaKadosh began Masechta Shabbos with hoitzah. But the fact that the Torah wrote hoitzah, we know whatever God wrote befedish, and that's only carrying and not making fire, Fakert, that's the most strict, according to this. So we knew that this is not one of those doubts. If a person does hitzah, b'mezid, b'edim basra, he's chayiv skila, that's a chiddush. Even though we never resolved which one was Isi ben Yehuda referring to, it was not referring to this one. To be continued.